I'm really happy that as part of the Innovation Summit, we get to host the induction ceremony for the Alaska Innovators Hall of Fame, sponsored by the Alaska State Committee on Research. And the two co-chairs of the Alaska State Committee on Research are here with us tonight. I'll introduce both of them and let them conduct the ceremony. With me tonight are Dr. Paul Lair. He was appointed Vice President for Academics, Students, and Research in May of 2018. In that capacity, he oversees academic research programs for the University of Alaska system, which has 3 accredited universities: University of Alaska Anchorage, University of Alaska Fairbanks, University of Alaska Southeast. In addition, he serves as the co-chair of the Alaska State Committee for Research. And also with us tonight is Lieutenant Governor Kevin Meyer. Lieutenant Governor Kevin Meyer leads the state's Division of Elections, handling all state elections, citizen ballot initiatives, and referenda. He's the co-chair of the Alaska State Committee for Research, a member of the Alaska Workforce Investment Board, the designated chair of the Alaska Historical Commission, and an ex officio board member of the Alaska Travel Industry Association. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Paul Lair and Lieutenant Governor Kevin Meyer.
Well, Brian, thank you very much for that kind introduction, and it's great to be here tonight. Good to see some old friends. It's been a couple of years since we've done this in person, so it's good to be back in person. And make sure you stop by the Alaska Brewery little taster there. That's why I was a few minutes late. It's very good. Anyway, so as Brian mentioned, I am the Lieutenant Governor for our great state of Alaska. And one of my responsibilities is the co-chair of the State Committee on Research called SCoR. And I am joined this evening by my fellow SCoR co-chair, Dr. Paul Lair. Dr. Lair is the Vice President of Academics and Research at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks, where, as we all know, that's where good research gets done. So he and his colleagues at the university have provided much-needed research both for myself, the governor, and the various state agencies. And Dr. Lair and I have the honor tonight of presenting to you the class of 2022 to be inducted in Alaska's Innovation Hall of Fame. And I see we have our 3 inductees here. The Alaska Innovators Hall of Fame was established in 2014, so it's been around a few years, and the purpose was to recognize individuals who have demonstrated innovation in creating or facilitating outstanding inventions or lifetime achievements in their field that have made a tangible impact on the quality of life or economic development or our environment and the overall welfare of the people of Alaska and or globally. These are inventors, innovators in the fields of science, engineering, and technology. And as I was mentioning to Dr. Lair, just recently we had a couple professors from the University of Alaska Fairbanks for our Aerospace Day, because aerospace is one of those new industries that we're trying to grow and expand here in Alaska. But that also includes drones and satellites, which a lot of innovation in that area. I'm just totally impressed. So anyway, so this year we celebrate and honor 3 outstanding individuals who put Alaska on the map as leaders in innovation and contribute to Alaska's growing culture of innovation. If you're interested in knowing more about our inductees tonight or previous inductees, or you just want to nominate somebody for next year, please go to our website, which is, let's see, what is it? Oh, it's alaska.edu/research/SCoR. And that website also has information about the State Committee for Research and Alaska Science and Technology Plan, which we call the How to Build a Fire. It's kind of a weird name, but it's very good reading. So for each inductee, Dr. Lair, my co-chair, is going to read the citation. He's going to ask the inductees to say a few words about their approach to the innovation. So with that, Dr. Lair, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. It's a great pleasure to be here at the Innovation Summit again, face-to-face and live, and to see the excitement of the music and excitement of everything here. Thank you, Brian, and thank you to your staff for putting this together. What a wonderful event and wonderful evening that we have here. I would just, as we go through the awardees, the inductees this year, I would also note that out in the hallway near the registration booth, we have posters up, which are the citations for our 3 inductees this year. So I encourage you to take a look at those posters and the citations there. This year we had help from Nancy Erickson with the Alaska Business to help prepare the citations and a little bit of the comments that I'm going to read to you tonight. So again, thanks to her for helping prepare this, and there will be a write-up in Alaska Business on the Innovation Hall of Fame as well. So we're looking forward to that. Innovation comes when and where it's least expected. If it were obvious, it wouldn't be new. Honoring innovation in Alaska itself is relatively new. As Lieutenant Governor noted, we began the Hall of Fame in 2014. Past honorees include the ancient creators of the Tlingit fishhook, the Aliuk Angak skin boat, discoveries in ecology, aurora physics, hibernation medicine, engineering of bridges and oil field facilities, promoters of the gold rush, television, alternative energy sources, peony horticulture, and innovation itself, and a vast array of inventors, often measuring devices, but also of consumer products such as pack rafts, fat bikes, and fish oil tablets. A wide range of innovators here in the state, and we want to see that continue as we move forward. And all of you out there are going to be contributing to that legacy. The class of 2020 at this induction ceremony is relatively small, with just 3 individuals, yet they represent the diversity of innovation, new computer software, new ways to communicate, and new ways to heal a wounded spirit. Our first inductee is Piper Wilder. I think we're going to see the slide. Yeah, you can clap. I'm not sure if we get a Piper slide or not. There she is. Piper Wilder was an entrepreneur in renewable energy long before she set foot in Alaska. While living in Colorado, Wilder served as vice president of Amatis Controls, a state-of-the-art lighting controls company based in Aspen. She also served as board chair of the Colorado Solar and Storage Association. Upon moving to Alaska in 2015, she soon formed 60 Hertz Energy, a small firm that developed maintenance software for electrical assets, from microgrids to fleets of diesel generators and portfolios of renewables. The computerized maintenance management software is used by, among other utilities, the Alaska Village Electric Cooperative, the largest rural Alaska electric cooperative serving more than 50 remote communities. Piper's products have allowed them to move away from disjointed handwritten logs so as to create centralized software platform that is easy for power plant operators to use and allows easy tracking by AVEC to manage these assets, improve system efficiency, and avoid maintenance issues, says UAF Assistant Professor Jeremy Vandermeer in his nomination letter. The software captures rich data that helps supervisors miles away have more awareness and control of expensive remote assets, says Wilder. Supervisors can message with the field tech to quickly answer questions and resolve issues. 60 Hertz's customer base has broadened to include power and water utilities in Alaska and in Canada. Wilder and her team have also worked in Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Benin through a contract with the U.S. Department of Defense Office of Naval Research. This company has been a labor of love from its beginning as a startup weekend to PowerPoint presentation. Wilder says, I fell heads over heels in that first weekend with this vision, and it's grown since. We now have 20 employees all over the globe and 30 customers. Wilder says she deeply cares about climate change and sustainable energy, so she feels it's in her calling to focus on maintaining these assets through her software. She also values listening carefully to what people wish would make their lives better. I ask a potential customer, if you had a magic wand, what would make a difference? There's wistful gazing and a lot of rich insight, she says. I think particularly in a startup companies, that's the meat of creating a product that will really serve the market. just by asking. So please join me in congratulating Piper Wilder as the 2022 inductee into the Alaska Innovators Hall of Fame.
Thanks. I'll just say this is so meaningful, and thank you each for the support. When we think about innovation, so often it's driven by someone asking the question, that could be better, couldn't it? And I think probably each of us on stage has some element of being the one to surface a problem or say, gosh, that's not right, can we fix it? And I suppose it just does that fixing at scale when we really attack some of these problems. So thank you each, and thank you very much for the opportunity to accept this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Piper. Our second inductee is Professor Robert Merritt. I've never heard anybody say less than he was a genius, says Bruce Merritt of his father. Posthumous Hall of Fame inductee Robert P. Merritt. We're joined on stage here by Bruce. Thank you for being here in honor of your father. His hands-on mechanical ability to shape things and fix things and even invent things was beyond the scope of most of us. Robert Merritt was born in 1924, an only child of a miner and a school teacher. He earned his engineering degree from Oregon State University and joined the military during World War II. While in this service, he found himself working on communications almost before he knew it, his son says. In his nomination letter, 2015 Hall of Famer Alex Hills writes that Merritt became an expert in two fields of electrical engineering, power transmissions and radio. He knew about receivers, transmitters, and most importantly, in Alaska, the behavior of radio waves, says Hills. Bob could build just about anything and then make it work. Merritt and his wife arrived in Alaska from Oregon in 1949 to take up positions at UAF. At that time, healthcare in Alaska villages was provided by specially trained health aides who consulted with physicians remotely via shortwave radio. However, active aurora borealis could sever communications for days at a time. People literally died waiting for Alaska to get satellite technology up and running, says Bruce Merritt. The elder Merritt saw an opportunity to change that when NASA launched a series of experimental communication satellites in 1966 that used VHF radio, which was less sensitive to atmospheric conditions than shortwave. Merritt and his students modified 100-watt taxicab radios to build an experimental health aid communication system, and that they designed a special antenna. Bruce Merritt traveled to villages with his father in the 1970s to help install those antennas, giving health aides reliable access to medical advice and support. Although Robert Merritt's work in the 60s and 70s helped transform telecommunications in rural Alaska, his son says his father's passion was education. If he couldn't have been teaching everything else he did probably wouldn't have been as significant. He and the students in his classroom were the love of his life, besides his wife and family. 2 years before he died in 1999, Merritt was named Engineer of the Year by the Alaska section of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. His gold pan plaque reads, "In recognition of outstanding contributions and innovations in the field of telecommunications, extraordinary commitment to the education of electrical engineers, which has profoundly impacted the profession in Alaska, and exemplary dedication to the IEEE of Alaska section. For additional recognition by the Innovators Hall of Fame, the letter nominating Merritt reads, like a who's who of engineering, telecommunications, and satellite technology, each noting his skills to fix anything he put his mind to. Please congratulate Robert Merritt as his induction into the 2022 Innovators Hall of Fame." Bruce?
Thank you very much. I appreciate, and I'm humbled to be here. My dad died about 20 years ago now, and I'm I'm glad to see that he's being honored, and now all we need to do is get a wing in the Duckering building named after him, or maybe where they held all the ham radio meetings in that small little theater up there. Nonetheless, it's very humbling, and it's very kind of Dr. Hills to go and nominate my father. He loved his work. He loved Alaska. You know, he came up for 1 year to simply teach 1 year in University of Alaska Fairbanks, and never left after that, except for some sabbatical leave time down in Stanford University to work with NASA and all that kind of cool stuff going on in the 60s when we were trying to keep up with the Russians. Again, thank you, and I appreciate the recognition that my family and my dad especially deserves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Our third inductee is Dr. Stacy Rasmus. As an anthropologist, Dr. Stacy Rasmus may not exactly fit the stereotype of an inventor. Innovation isn't necessarily trying something new, she says. Sometimes an innovation starts with trying something old and applying it in new ways. Rasmus is an Indigenous health disparities scientist whose research tackles the issues of suicide and substance abuse in Alaska Native and American Indian communities by emphasizing cultural strengths and community partnerships. Alaska Native youth are often pulled between traditional ways of life and Western lifestyles. The problem is compounded by Western treatment methods that emphasize risk factors with the side effects of portraying Native communities as helpless and burdened by disease. It was frustrating to see our young people not helped by this Western system when traditionally our Indigenous ways had systems to teach children at young ages to lead a healthy life based on our traditions, writes Emana community co-investigator Billy Charles in her nomination letter. The Western model of substance abuse and suicide prevention was not working for our youth. The youth needed something they could relate to, rooted in their own culture. The approach that Rasmus took identifies strengths and reasons for living in youth and helps communities build and implement programs to foster these strengths. Rasmus grew up in the Pacific Northwest and attended Northwest Indian College and Western Washington University, where she obtained a degree in anthropology. Her introduction to strength-based approach to suicide and substance abuse came when she attended a talk at Northwest Indian College by the late Dr. Gerald V. Mohat, a professor at UAF. Mohat presented his cultural intervention called the People Awakening Project, exploring Alaska Native pathways to sobriety. Rasmus was hooked. She transitioned to Alaska 20 years ago and obtained her PhD from UAF. I have lived in rural communities and served both clinical and research capacities, making efforts to reduce the unacceptable burden of suicide that disproportionately impacts Alaska Native people, says Rasmus. Rasmus' work with the People Awakening Project led to the development of the, let's see if I can say this one here, Kwangavik Tools for Life projects, the beating heart and foundation model for other projects in her research program at the Center for Alaska Native Health Research, or CANR, at UAF. Her research has served as a model for other Indigenous communities seeking strength-based strategies to promote well-being and reduce disparities in suicide and substance abuse disorders, including the opioid public health crisis. Efforts are underway to apply findings from this work to address these same issues facing military service members and veteran populations in Alaska. Elders in the Yupik communities of the Bering Sea, where Rasmus has done most of her work, often say, "We used to have to survive the weather and our hunger, but today's young people have to survive their feelings. We have to work on living every single day, and that's what we need to give our young ones, reasons to live every day." It's learning to apply these tools to address these new problems that is the innovative approach of our suicide prevention research, says Rasmus. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Stacy Rasmus as a 2022 inductee into the Alaska Innovators Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much. You know, I prepared a little speech, wrote it down. I was going to wear my reading glasses for the first time on stage, feeling like, well, I got this now. But then I was reminded by my esteemed colleagues that whatever we must do it from our hearts. Whether it's, building pipelines, aquifers, things that you do in the engineering, science, and technologies. But so I wanted to speak just for a moment from my heart about and recognize really, I'm here because of the strengths of my team, of everyone who has stood beside me, behind me, around me, teaching me, guiding me, mentoring me, loving me. I couldn't do it without the team that I work with. And it was already mentioned, Dr. Jerry Mohat, who really kind of awakened me to seeing research as a way to improve, even save lives. And I just must honor and respect the Indigenous ingenuity that has really come forth to create these very novel, very powerful approaches to bring our young people up with power and strength and confidence and hope and purpose. And this is for all young people. All of our young people need it. This young, beautiful young life needs it. This is work for us all. So I acknowledge my team at my Center for Alaska Native Health Research, my beautiful program coordinator, Maria Stateskull, all of the elders in the communities that work with me, and my UAF leadership. I really want to recognize my UAF leadership. I left a tenure track kind of sexy position at Washington State University to come back to UAF because I really believe in being in place, and I really felt supported in the environment at UAF. It felt more supportive than the big giant system and machine that was Washington State University. And so I recognize Chancellor White, Vice Chancellor LaBelle Hammer, Provost Prakash, and my wonderful director of the Institute of Arctic Biology, my colleague and friend, Dr. Diane O'Brien. I know I took the most time, but I really very much appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, inductees and Dr. Rasmus. Don't worry about reading glasses. I just gave up. Just as you get older, you just go the heck with it. I'll just wear glasses. Not that there's anything wrong with glasses. Okay, so and thank you for coming back to Alaska, all of you. All of you could have gone anywhere in the nation and been superstars, but you came back to Alaska, and we're thankful for that. Please continue being innovative and creative, and all of you out there as well. That's what makes Alaska great. That's what makes America great. So it's been an honor for me tonight to be part of this celebration. We have a lot of amazing people, and we're just lucky they do want to come back to our great state of Alaska. So, and Brian, thank you so much for hosting this. There you are. And the Juneau Economic Council. They do this every year. It's a lot of fun. So that concludes the Hall of Fame inductees. So I turn it over now to Brian. Thank you.